wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show, and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. This episode is sponsored by Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. Today, we're joined by Cleveland Brown. Cleveland is the co-founder and CEO of Payscout. Cleveland, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show today. I know we've been excited to get you on. Payscout is up to some fantastic things. I know Payscout's been on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing private company list 4 years running. So we're thrilled to get a little bit of your time today. We're going to be talking about something I think very cool, is how VR commerce is poised to change business. But before we get into that, Cleveland, maybe you can tell us a little about what you and the Payscout team are up to these days.
You know, Payscout, we're a payment ingenuity company. And, at core, we manage payments for our customers. How do we qualify being a payment ingenuity company? We do that through 5 layers of innovation. I think the one that I'd want to point out really is our first layer. According to Entrepreneur Magazine, we have the best company culture in America in financial services. So something that we're striving to do that's allowing us to really be innovative and bring VR commerce to the table. And that's where we're at today.
That's fantastic, Cleveland. And, again, today's topic, we are going to be talking about how VR commerce is poised to change business. And I think it's so cool because you think VR and I think immediately, gaming, entertainment, social media. And so this is going to be a very unique thing that we're talking about. So Cleveland, let's kind of start with this VR commerce overview and what we're going to be talking about and sort of what Payscout's role is in that.
Yeah, I've been on this journey for 2 years now. So we're going back to 2016 and really our first introduction to VR commerce. And in 2017, June 2017, the invention of VR commerce and really allowing that shift from gaming and social media to physical goods and being able to purchase a physical good within virtual reality, stepping into a retail environment that's 360 degrees, making a frictionless purchase without pulling out a wallet or taking off the headset, and continuing that journey. And what I'd like to do is how we qualify that. And I like to take everyone back to 1994. And the reason why I say that is if anyone has a chance, look up Amazon.com 1994, and you're going to see a web page that has an image up top of a logo, and it says 1 million titles, consistently low prices. And what's interesting is the message that I want to make clear, and it's really central to VR commerce, is that the same way e-commerce disrupted e-tail, virtual reality commerce is going to disrupt e-commerce. VR commerce is here, and we helped bring that to life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And one of the things I know that you certainly think about is top of mind is determining if one's business is ready for a VR commerce strategy.
Yes, and how we qualify that. And it's interesting because in this journey, we have some great partners. So really, it starts with our partners. Oracle is one of our partners. Visa is another one of our partners, and we've been working through use cases in retail, e-tail, sporting, entertainment, nonprofit. And just to give you an example of one of the activations that we did, we worked with Visa and the United States Olympic Committee to enable frictionless donations in support of Olympic hopefuls. And this was tied to an incredible VR skateboarding experience. And the point of that is that we've been able to build, because of our unique background, an end-to-end VR commerce experience and platform. So in order to do that, there's three questions that we really talk about when it comes to a VR commerce strategy, and it's not for everyone. If you answer yes to, question number one, are you using storytelling to sell your products or services? Second one is, do you use digital assets, images and videos to promote your business? And the third is, is your company the type that continues to reinvent and enhance products on your current platform? So those are the three questions. We make it real simple. And if you want to go at length and talk about these three questions, I'd be more than happy to.
That's fantastic. And so, Cleveland, let's talk then really quickly then about, and I know you've already sort of touched upon this when you're talking about philanthropy and sort of the future of VR commerce, but in your mind, sort of where do you see it going? What are the implications? What do those possibilities look like?
So it goes back to the first statement that I made in regards to what e-commerce did to retail. So the future it's going to be the same impact that we're going to see in e-commerce. And if we look at kind of let's start with the adoption. What does the adoption look like? Well, according to one study, worldwide, 1/3 of online consumers are expected to use VR by 2020. So that's where it starts, adoption rates. And if we look at adoption rates of technologies through history, color TV, VCR, PC, cell phone, internet, VR has the same trajectory in terms of adoption. So what does that look like? Well, the end of this year, we're expected to reach $7.17 billion in revenue, in virtual reality revenue. And by the end of 2021, $75 billion in revenue. And this is where consumers will be spending their time in the coming years. How do we know that? Well, you can let's look at IDC and Forbes. The headset market in 2017, there were 12 million headsets sold. That's projected to be 81 million by 2021. That's a compound annual growth rate of 56%. So, when we look at the future, where are consumers and customers going to be? That's where they're going to be. And the data is there to support it.
Wow. Yeah, those are some pretty staggering numbers. I mean, it's almost tough to wrap your head around that sort of growth. But I mean, hearing it spelled out so clearly definitely paints a particular picture about where it's going. So if that's kind of where the future of VR commerce looks like, let's talk then a little bit about some of the latest developments and the innovations that you've seen, especially in the mobile payment space.
So it's interesting. So when we talk about mobile payments, I mean, we also have to talk about virtual reality, because in many cases, the mobile device is being used to experience not only the content, but also the commerce. So what we're seeing in that space is we're seeing a number of things. Better ways to produce content and deliver content on mobile devices. Second, payment technologies that allow the security of information and payment information while you're in these experiences. And let's not forget to talk about augmented reality and AR commerce. And this is also an area that we're developing in currently to allow commerce to take place in that arena. So from a reality standpoint, those are the things that we're really fundamentally focused on. We have other products at Payscout. One of our products is Condor, and in the mobile payment space, we now bring order and efficiency to collections and allowing accounts receivable management to be handled on a mobile device, and allowing someone to resolve whatever matter that they may have in an automated manner. And they can just do that with their device without even talking to anyone. So those are some of the things that, from a Payscout perspective, that we're working on. In addition, one thing that we really didn't get into, but I think it's a good point to mention here, are political initiatives. So I know you brought up philanthropy, and I just like to touch base on political initiatives. There's a caucus in DC. It's the Virtual Reality, Augmented Reality, Mixed Reality Caucus. We consult that caucus, and we're seeing a swell of interest from political campaigns really wanting to have their messaging resonate with potential voters and also the monetization, campaign fundraising. So that's just something to point out, and that's something that we're going to see, I think, in the future as well.
All right, today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing, and we'll be shining the spotlight on Aegis Software, a company that makes software for manufacturing operations. Aegis was one of the first companies in their space to invest in search marketing, but as competition grew, their performance plateaued. To counter this, they hired Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. With unparalleled experience in inbound lead gen for B2B companies, Directive was able to increase Aegis's monthly online leads by 457%, while at the same time lowering their cost per lead by 147%. Now I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
This is such a huge topic, and typically on the show, we've got our 15 minutes to dive in, and so I know we're just sort of scratching the surface, not only of the topic, but your expertise. Cleveland, are there any pieces of advice that you might have for business owners? I mean, I know you had we started off talking about the 3 questions that you can ask yourself to see if a VR commerce strategy might work for you. Any advice that you have for executives, business owners, founders who would also maybe like to just educate themselves? They would like to find out more. They're interested, and their interest has been piqued, but additional resources by any chance?
Yeah, I mean, it's really touching base and taking the time to answer those 3 questions. I mean, that's my core advice. Storytelling. How critical is it to your products and services? Why do I say that? Because empathy, what happens in virtual reality is a lot different than what happens in a frame. So my first piece of advice is, let's look at question number 1, storytelling and empathy. Are you measuring empathy? Are you using empathy to drive conversions? That's a point of focus, and that needs to be studied. It needs to be understood by that business owner. The next question, in terms of, do you use digital assets, images, videos to promote your business? That's critical. There's many people believe that, hey, there's this new technology and it's price prohibitive. How am I going to justify spending in VR commerce? First thing I would say is, I'll save you the time now. I can tell you that developing a VR commerce experience is the same as developing an e-commerce experience when it comes to deployment of capital and resources. In fact, the majority of our experiences, they were done with existing assets, where we created the virtual world and we can just drop existing assets in there. So that's the second piece, not to be afraid of venturing in, because it is not cost prohibitive. And the third, really, when I said, is your company the type that continues to reinvent, enhance products on your current platform, really looking at that. Are you looking to evolve yourself, understanding what's happened in the past? So what I would say is educate yourself. Educate yourself about the history of your vertical, of what you're selling, and how did e-commerce impact that from a retail perspective or a moto perspective, and look at that, because it's going to happen again. So the race, my advice is, this race has started. If you answer yes to all 3 of these questions, you need a VR commerce strategy, and you need to start executing it today. And that's something that we can assist with, Payscout. So the advice is, if you answer yes, get in contact with us. But moving that forward, if you've answered no to all of these, obviously you do not need one. And if you've answered no to any of these or yes to a couple, well, start thinking about a VR commerce strategy, do your homework. And once you've answered yes to all of these, then execute. So that's the point, that it's not for everyone to jump in. It really depends on where you're at in your evolution at this particular point in time. So that would be my advice.
Perfect. Well, it's very thoughtful advice. And Cleveland, we've touched on a lot of different things during this interview: company culture, innovation, storytelling, empathy, education, and obviously you've seen a tremendous amount of growth with your own company. And so one of the questions that we've been asking a lot of our guests, especially the ones that much like yourself, found themselves as in the role of founder, CEO, et cetera, is the idea of legacy. And so, we're wondering, whether it's personal, professional, or a combination of the two, what sort of legacy are you hoping to leave behind?
That's a good question. So you brought up culture, and there's a reason why we are the best company to work for in America in financial services. And it's a belief. So my legacy really is tied to a belief that every individual has a social responsibility to make the world a better place. And that's fundamental to both professional and personal for me. And as well as, I believe, our Payscout family as well. So it's from a legacy standpoint, if I'm able to help take that belief and carry that torch and rally people to execute that belief, and we do it, whether it's youth mentorship, social entrepreneurship, really impacting lives in a way to improve quality of life. For me, it's generational. So my legacy is really, can I have a generational impact when I'm gone? And that's what we're striving to do. And that's the legacy I want to leave behind.
That's fantastic. Well, and it certainly sounds like you're well on your way, especially with Payscout and all the fantastic things that you've been doing. Again, we've been talking with Cleveland Brown. He is the co-founder and CEO of Payscout. Cleveland, if anyone listening, they want to find out more about today's topic, they want to connect, they want to find out more about Payscout, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Easiest way is to go to our website, www.payscout.com. And you're more than welcome to reference this interview and podcast in my LinkedIn profile and touch base with me directly.
That's fantastic. Well, Cleveland, again, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule. It was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.